A very warm welcome to you. Thank you for joining us on the News on 90 International, reaching you live from the nation's capital. I am Ruth Aguela. Let's begin with the headlines. President Buhari leads British and African leaders to UK-Africa Investment Summit underway in London. Supreme Court affirms selections of 4 state governors. Plus, federal government signs memorandum of understanding with 2 private firms to bridge unemployment gap in the country. And the UK-Africa Summit is first on our menu, with Africa widely acknowledged as the global future given its vast potential for economic prosperity. The United Kingdom says it is better positioned to play a huge and active role in that future. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson gave this assurance at the opening of the first ever UK-Africa Investment Summit in London. President Muhammadu Buhari led Nigeria's delegation to the summit, also attended by a dozen of African and British leaders. Let's hear from State House correspondent Adam Musambo.
Labelled as a major milestone in international relations, the UK-Africa Investment Summit provides an opportunity for exchange of ideas, equipment and finance towards forging partnerships that can massively create jobs, enrich lives and build relationships of mutual prosperity. Addressing participants comprising heads of state and government, business leaders, investors and entrepreneurs, British Prime Minister Boris Johnson made a case for the UK as the investment partner of choice for African countries. The United Kingdom, he said, has unique expertise and innovation in technology, clean growth, infrastructure and finance capable of feeding the continent's demand for sustainable growth.
Africa is the future. And the UK has a huge and active role to play in that future. We want to be with you side by side every step of the way. So let's seize the opportunities that are before us here today. Let's build the partnership for the future. And together, let us write the next chapter for my country, for your country, and above all, for all the peoples of our countries.
Prime Minister Johnson, however, used the forum to announce an end to UK support for thermal coal mining or coal power plants overseas, but a wider commitment towards helping Africa's transition away from fossil fuels towards renewable and sustainable forms of clean energy.
Lolade and her team make the local streets cleaner and the global environment greener. They've created 3,000 jobs in Nigeria, the vast majority of them for women. They help keep the order books full for British manufacturers, and the whole operation provides a tidy return for investors both in Nigeria and in the UK. And it's a great example of what the modern UK-Africa partnership looks like.
During the summit, £6.5 billion worth of commercial deals have been announced between British and African firms, while setting aside nearly £1 billion in aid for Africa's growth and development in critical economic sectors.
Nigeria is a huge marketplace, and the scramble.
Labelled as a major milestone in international relations, the UK-Africa Investment Summit provides an opportunity for exchange of ideas, equipment and finance towards forging partnerships that can massively create jobs, enrich lives and build relationships of mutual prosperity. Addressing participants comprising heads of state and government, business leaders, investors and entrepreneurs, British Prime Minister Boris Johnson made a case for the UK of the highly beneficial linkages between the United Kingdom and African nations towards generating greater development outcomes. From London, Adam Musambo, NTA News.
In a related development, the British Prime Minister Boris Johnson is wooing African leaders on the need for partnership with the UK and becoming the continent investment partner of choice. The Prime Minister wants to recruit British investors to invest in Africa, complementing a drive to repurpose the overseas aid budget in trade. In this report, Musa Baba Aliyu takes a look at Africa, the British request and the way forward.
Britain has successfully crossed all the hurdles towards her movement out of the European Union. This means that UK government is free to seek partnership with any country without adhering to the European Union guidelines. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson, while searching for new business partners for his country, Africa was the first to come to mind. British investment in Africa has been slowing in recent times, but now Boris Johnson is optimistic that with the big market opportunity in Africa, both Britain and the African continent will have their economy boosted. Johnson was quoted saying, "Africa is the future and the UK has a huge and active role to play in that future." End of quote.
UK has what Africa needs, and Africa certainly has what UK needs. We need the partnership to make it possible for the AfCFTA to work effectively.
Analysts identified what they described as lucrative areas that the two parties can benefit from, which include agriculture, infrastructure, health, education, automobile, telecommunication, and transportation.
How do African leaders take advantage of this opportunity? Because it has to be a two-way thing. Because investment is more like marriage. So it's going to be marriage, it has to be convenient for each and every one of us. So they are coming to you, they need you now, so the best thing for you to negotiate well and then get the best out of it.
For Nigeria, which has a long bilateral and trade relationship with the UK, there is the hope that some of the constraints in transacting business with the EU, which include blocking export of agricultural produce to member countries, will be addressed with the UK. In Abuja, Musa Baba Aliyu, NTA News.
Thank you very much, Musa. And joining me in the studio to talk more on the UK African Investment Forum, well as it affects Nigeria, of course, is Naziru Mikailu, Editor-in-Chief, Daily Trust, who is also a former staff of BBC London. Thank you very much, Mr. Mikailu.
Thank you.
All right, now let's begin this way. Why an eye on Africa?
Well, I think the UK, of course, is leaving the European Union at the end of the month. And obviously, it's looking to widen its partnership with countries across the world. And Africa, it's a big market. And there is this historical relationship between the United Kingdom and African countries. Many of them were ruled during the colonial era by the United Kingdom. So by default, we also have a Commonwealth organization, which many African countries are members. So the UK by default needs to reach out to these countries and strike a trade and investment agreement.
Well, from your opinion, I don't know what you think about these, but there are speculations that this might be the beginning of exploitation of the continent.
Well, I don't think so, because we are in 2020, obviously, and these countries, this is not like in the 18th century or in the 19th century. So the countries are going there as a bloc. Even in Africa, we recently signed our own free trade agreement among African countries. So Africa is now speaking with one voice, and I do hope and believe that they will stick together and approach the United Kingdom in whatever agreement that they are going to discuss and eventually signed into law. So they are not going to allow the United Kingdom to kind of like rip them off. I'm sure they have to make sure that they protect their jobs, employment, especially those manufacturing and agricultural jobs that we have in this continent.
And from what we heard Boris Johnson say, there are a lot of prospects for Africa. But if you're to advise, what area, or, what agenda should West African leaders present at the forum?
Well, already in that front, we need to make sure, as I said, to stick together and speak with one voice. The areas that we need to protect is where UK will be bringing its products to Africa, because we are a very, very big market. Even Nigeria, we have more than about 200 million people. How many of the population of the United Kingdom? We are not talking about the EU, because it has now left, it's going to leave the EU. So we have to be very careful in what we allow them to bring in. And we have to make sure that the products that we are producing in Africa that we have the capacity to take out are included in any trade agreement that we're going to sign. So don't allow them to flood our market with their stuff while they give us restricted access. So this is my my suggestion to the West African leaders.
Okay, and back home here, what areas, strategic areas, should Nigerians be looking at to attract more investors into the country?
Well, we need infrastructure. So this is a key area where the UK, for example, in area of infrastructure, rail, airport and services, because the UK economy is it's a services-driven economy, so they have expert professionals in different fields. So these are areas where we can partner with them well, so they can bring and help train our people, so we can benefit. And going forward, we will be able to train and maintain the infrastructure and the technology that we have. Well, for Nigeria, in terms of what we export, this we have agriculture. We also have mineral resources. Apart from oil and gas, we have other minerals that that we need to exploit, and probably we need to target UK market with some of the minerals that we have. But I don't. What I believe is Nigeria needs to be very careful in this kind of agreement, because we have the market. So we need to determine the kind of agreements and deals that we are going to sign with the United Kingdom.
Thank you very much. The opportunities are endless, and of course, we'll keep our eyes on the prize. Thank you very much. Naziru Mikailu, Editor-in-Chief, Daily Trust, and also former staff of the BBC. All right, let's move on, but still in a related development, issues relating to environmental preservation and sustainability for job and economic prosperity dominated as Charles, the Prince of Wales, played host to President Muhammadu Buhari in Scotland. State House correspondent Adamu Sambo reports.
President Muhammadu Buhari was in Scotland on a special invitation of the Prince of Wales and heir apparent to the throne of the British monarchy, Prince Charles Arthur George. Simply put, it was a befitting reciprocal honor as the Prince of Wales and his wife were hosted in Abuja by the Nigerian leader in November 2018. During the closed-door engagement that lasted 1.5 hours, President Muhammadu Buhari and Prince Charles deliberated extensively on climate change, its devastating consequences on the environment, and sustainable responsive measures.
The major takeaway is essentially that the Prince is now committed to helping to, first of all, get experts into Nigeria to assist in certain areas such as reforestation, which is a priority for us, and also ultimately helping mobilizing investors. The strategy that the Prince really emphasized was the possibility of bringing together huge investors. He talked about having the largest pool or conglomerate of investors ever in the world, who would be able to carry out actions that will be, friendly to the environment, but as I said, in a sustainable way.
Challenges associated with the receding lake chart, the farmers' harders crisis, and other environmental issues confronting Nigeria were critically analyzed and suggestions made on the best way forward. President Buhari and the Prince of Wales also discussed the role the Commonwealth can play towards mitigating the impact of climate change on member nations.
The Prince of Wales, as you know, he is now the head of the Commonwealth, and the next summit of the Commonwealth will be in Kigali in Rwanda in the middle of the year, and looking at very concrete strategies to start addressing some of these environmental challenges, and the possibility of setting up specialist councils of countries that would provide skilled resources addressing different aspects of preserving the environment, but preserving it, as I said, in a sustainable way. It does not have to be an endeavor that just drains countries of financial resources.
Others on President Buhari's entourage to Scotland include Nigeria's High Commissioner to the United Kingdom and his Chief of Staff, Abdullahi. From Glasgow, Scotland, Adamu Sambu, NTA News.
We'll go on a break right now. We're back shortly, so don't go anywhere.
Your information dey important, just like your identity. Na the only way we fit take hala you o. Make you go browse easy.gotvafrica.com. Sign in with your IUC number and mobile number and scroll down to personal details and address. Then check well to see say everything bam. You fit change the one wey not correct. To finish everything, just click the save button and it don finish.
Thank you. I make sure say my phone number dey correct. That's now why GoTV fit call me make I come collect my own awoof.
Angel, time for my phone in that way because now my correct phone number dey for book.
GoTV, live it, love it.
Now look me again, no. Make you go do your own.
Thank you for staying with us. Now looking at the judiciary, the Supreme Court has affirmed the election of 4 state governors. The panel of justices led by Justice Sylvester Nguta gave the verdict in the 4 appeals determined this Monday in Abuja. The states are Kano, Sokoto, Plateau and Bauchi. The court dismissed the appeals challenging the victories of governors Abdullahi Umar Ganduje of Kano State, Amin Waziri Tamwal of Sokoto State, Simon Lalong of Plateau State, and Bala Muhammad of Bauchi State. The panel of justices, led by Justice Sylvester Nguta, averred that the appellant failed to prove the alleged irregularities during the elections. The court maintained that since the appellant failed to prove their case, it has no option than to dismiss the appeals and the cross appeals in all the matters for lacking in merit. Meanwhile, Kano State Governor Abdullahi Umar Ganduje has invited opposition People's Democratic Party candidate in the last gubernatorial election, Abba Kabir Yusuf, to join him in taking the state to the next level of development. Ganduje was reacting to the Supreme Court judgment that validated his election. Abdullahi Mustafa has all the details.
Soon after the Supreme Court's affirmation of Dr. Ganduje's election as governor of Kano State, APC supporters took over the government house premises to celebrate. The celebration wasn't only in the premises.
It's an important milestone for the people of Kano. It's an important step for the consolidation of the second term of His Excellency Dr. Abdullahi Umar Ganduje.
For Governor Ganduje, it is a moment to reconcile and face the challenge ahead.
So that everybody will come on board. We're appealing to the people of Kano State to celebrate in a peaceful manner. And those who belong to the opposition, we're appealing to them to come together with us. We are all products of democracy. We are all the people of Kano State. So we need to come together so that we work for the people of Kano State. We have important programs for development, which we need the cooperation of everybody. Our program of free and compulsory education requires the contribution of everybody. Our program of peace and stability, that is security, we need the cooperation of everybody.
He appealed to people in the state to support the APC government's developmental programs that will take Kano to the next level. Abdullahi Mustafa, NTA News.
Still on court judgment, the Federal High Court Abuja has dismissed a suit seeking the disqualification of Kogi Governor Yahaya Bello from the 2019 Kogi governorship election on allegedly double registration as a voter. Justice Yang Eko held that the plaintiff lacked jurisdiction to file the suit. Olabode Arewa reports.
The plaintiff, Natasha Akpoti, was the governorship candidate of the Social Democratic Party in the November 29 Kogi election. She alleged that on 23rd of May 2017, Yahaya Bello registered as a voter in Lokoja, having also registered in Abuja in 2011. The court, taking into consideration Section 24, and Section 81 of the Electoral Act of 2010 said it was clear that the plaintiff, Natasha Akpoti, was not a prosecuting authority. Therefore, she lacked jurisdiction to institute the suit.
The court said by virtue of the fact that the section speaks on criminal issues, you as an individual without a fiat of a prosecuting body cannot file action or civil action to claim that one be punished under the law.
Counsel to Natasha Akpoti declined to speak on the matter. The APC, INEC, and Governor Yahya Bello were joined in the suit as defendants. In Abuja, Olabodarewa, NTA News.
In other news, the federal government has signed a memorandum of understanding with 2 private firms to further bridge the gap of unemployment in the country, as available government jobs are not enough to cater for the teeming Nigerian youth. Minister of Youth and Sports Development, Sunday Dari, said the MOU is aimed at ensuring Nigerian youths acquire both entrepreneurial skills through its work experience program as well as digital skills, while reiterating that there is a gap between what has learned in school and what is obtainable outside. The minister said federal government, through its work experience programs, will be engaging young Nigerians in skills that can make them employable, such as metering installation, plumbing maintenance, and electrical installation and maintenance, with more than 41,000 applications already received.
The President's charge to me particularly was to keep our youth busy. How else can you keep the youth busy? By making them more employable, more knowledgeable, but also equip them with what they need to be able to compete in the world in which we live.
When you look at the digital world, having millions of young people who can learn digital skills is an advantage.
That saves us money, that increases productivity, and that also, increases shareholder value.
With 500,000 youths expected to acquire digital skills in web design, computer programming, coding, and app development in the next 2 years, both government and the private partners say this vision, being one of the major deliverables of the present administration, will help in lifting millions of Nigerians out of poverty. Let's go to Lagos now. There report that the Group Managing Director NNPC Mele Kyari has confirmed that 5 people lost their lives, with others sustaining various degrees of burns following a fire outbreak caused by a pipeline explosion at Ile-Epo area of Egba in Lagos. In a chat with journalists during an on-the-spot assessment of the inferno, the GMD who described the incident as an act of vandals, said NNPC and security agencies such as DSS, police, Nigerian Navy and Nigerian Security and Civil Defense are working to ensure that the unpatriotic behavior is nipped in the bud.
And authority, including Department of State Service, to contain this to bare minimum. What this portends is danger for all of us. If these incidents had happened under a windy condition yesterday, we would have been talking about thousands of people dying in this place. And therefore, we do need the help and cooperation of all members of community to expose this when they come. It is not secret. As you can see, the point where this fire started is the visibility of everybody around here. And that means that we saw it, we didn't do anything, and this is the result that we are seeing. We are hoping and counting on Nigerians to help us resolve this, because this is a major national security concern.
Pipeline supplies petroleum products from Mosemi to Ilarian was alleged to be destroyed by vandals who siphoned the products. And let's go to the foreign scene now as we join Uche Ugochukwu for more news.
A warm welcome. We will begin on the Libyan conflict, where the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres said major powers are fully committed to a peaceful resolution in Libya after a summit in Berlin. World leaders have pledged not to interfere in Libya's ongoing civil conflict and have vowed to uphold UN arms embargo. German Chancellor Angela Merkel said the warring parties were briefed and consulted by the other parties. Reports from China say the number of people infected with a new virus tripled over the weekend, with the outbreak spreading to major cities. Total known infections now exceed 200 and 3 people have died. Health officials identified the infection as being a strain of coronavirus. Finally, parts of southeastern Australia is being pelted by hailstones the size of golf balls, less than 24 hours after the region was hit by massive dust storms. The hailstones arrived in the national capital, Canberra, on Monday, covering the ground with white balls of ice and leaves. The hail stopped after about 50 minutes and headed east. Australia Bureau of Meteorology, however, warned that the cities could see damaging winds, large hailstones, and heavy rainfall. That's it from here. I am Uche Ugochukwu. Thanks for staying tuned.
Thank you, Uche.